Welcome to the Williamsburg Presbyterian Church. Over the next few minutes through this video, you will hear from many of your fellow congregants about the importance of Williamsburg Presbyterian Church to them and their families. We will hear about the importance of our ministries and how God is leading us to be better able to serve Him and His people. How we help those in need and spread the gospel via Hands of Christ, Vacation Bible School, the Blessed Angela Meals, Ginger Snappers, our choir and music programs, Children's Church, M&Ms, Presbyterian Women, the Men of the Church, the Children's Christmas Program, Kingstree Community Youth, Coins for Christmas, or our valued Christian education programs. Every day, as we interact with members of our church or members of the community who have been touched by our ministries and missions, we are reaffirmed in our mission and duty to Christ and in our purpose and need to grow God's grace. We have a long, rich history at Williamsburg Presbyterian, dating back to 1736. One of the first concerns of Williamsburg's early settlers, who were predominantly Presbyterian, was to build a house for the Lord. Over the next 216 years, that's up through 1952, the members of this church would embark on 10 different building construction projects in the development of tools to be used in service to God's calling. The current church was constructed in 1914, and the addition of the educational building was completed in 1952. Now, 58 years later, it is time for us to evaluate and consider what tools we need to provide for the future of our church.
This process of growing God's grace started before it was formally named several years ago. I got involved with a lot of the young leadership in the church who started talking about a building on the Swales lot, expanding our capabilities to have family gatherings, etc. And quite frankly, I was opposed. I said, we have other priorities. We've got bills that we maybe should pay, having difficulty with. We have church attendance problems, just a negative attitude. And these young people didn't go away. They kept coming back, and they conceptualized their vision. They talked about maybe even making it larger and moving it to an adjacent lot. And vision in their mind kept growing. And I listened, and quite frankly, I stepped back because I was impressed with the fact that we had young leadership pushing older leadership to move forward. And I think that is really a dynamic change for Williamsburg Presbyterian Church. I think we're fortunate that we have young leaders that want to see the church grow. The question comes up, well, why do you really need that? Well, I think just in any expansion, if you're growing your family, there comes a time when you outgrow facilities that you have. I think we're at that situation somewhat. I think we have older facility. I think we need modernization. I think we have office limitations. We have growing church programs. We have a large, real young age group in the church. We have the programs for that young group. And sometimes I don't think we've got enough room to house that. We don't always want to be in this sanctuary. There's not, the programs are varied enough that they need to be maybe in a different location rather than a church sanctuary. And I quite frankly don't think we have facilities to promote that growth. I think we're limited in office space because we have growing church Sunday school classes. And all of those are good things. All of those are reasons I think that we need to take a look at how we need to expand. And having an expansion that is family-oriented, church-oriented, properly titled Growing God's Grace, I think is a wonderful situation for us to be in.
Other than the sanctuary, there is not a place to hold large gatherings. The assembly room will only seat around 75 people for meals, and the views are obstructed by columns and ductwork throughout the room. The building committee's vision is to build a family life center with seating for 165 people, and will still have room for a stage. The project would also include a covered area for dropping off people in bad weather, a commercial kitchen, and new church offices that will be on one level instead of 3 as they are today. The best part about the proposed structure is it will be accessible and used by all, young and old alike. It will be conducive for large gatherings, both for our church members and for our outreach programs throughout the community.
5 years ago, we began discussion on a family life center for our church. After hours of deliberation, prayer, and careful consideration, we have a plan to build not just a building, but an opportunity to help grow our Christian community around us, expanding our ministry, growing God's grace. In the coming weeks, you will hear more information on this subject. I encourage you to prayerfully consider giving cheerfully and generously to this special project.
So why do we need a new building? To grow. We need to expand our Christian education program, our children and youth programs, and we need a place for fellowship. Just as the people in the 1950s had the vision to build this educational building for future needs, we need to have a vision for this new building to provide for the future needs of Williamsburg Presbyterian Church.
This summer during Bible school, we had a rainy day, and we had 60 children and nowhere to play. And every room that we had in the church that was big enough to accommodate us was already being used. So we had to use the sanctuary to entertain the children. I think it's exciting to know that there's so many children in the church that have energy and imagination and a desire to be in God's house, learning God's Word.
We love to gather as a church family, whether it be for intergenerational Sunday schools, for Bible studies, for youth activities, children activities galore. We're constantly planning and doing fun church activities, and we are often faced with the idea of space. When we start planning activities, that is the #1 problem, and what a great problem to have. And so the Family Life Center, I feel like, will, solve one of those issues of space that we have with all the activities we have going on.
I personally feel like the environment of a family living center would be more comfortable for a lot of people that maybe find a church intimidating, or the formal structure of a sanctuary. And our church has an excellent outreach program, and I feel like anything we can do to enhance that and have people from our community coming into our church and seeing how we interact with our community and the love that we have to share with them would enhance Williamsburg County.
Every room in our current building is a multi-use room, and I believe God has bigger plans for us.
The new building will give us the space we need to expand our Christian education ministry through children and youth activities.
We're looking forward to building the center out on the lot so that the community youth does not always have to meet at the King Street Methodist Church. It would be nice to actually have the Williamsburg Presbyterian Church host the King Street Community Youth. We have not been able to do that yet.
We got a big family in this church, and I think the Life Center would just expand our family. What about you, Mildred?
I think so too.
No.
I think that we need a new building here because there's so many more youth joining our church today that we need more space so we can worship the Lord.